Hello everyone, this is Grandmaster Arturs Neiksans, and I decided to make a new video. This time I'm gonna analyze the great game played yesterday in the World Cup final between Ding Liren versus Teimour Radjabov. As you probably already know, the game ended in the Chinese player's victory. It was quite a nice and instructive game, thus I came to this idea to make this analysis of the game. So the game progressed after c4, knight f6, knight c3, e6 and e4. I believe here black needs to be quite accurate to fight for equality. Radjabov played c5 in the game. I believe that is quite a provocative move, although probably it's just fine. Normally people play here d5, and after, let's say, c takes on d5, e takes, e5, knight e4, knight f3, black still needs to be accurate and prove he has the equal game here. I'm pretty sure both of the players perfectly knew what's the current theoretical stance in this position, and they were quite happy to go for the line which happened in the game. So after c5, black is voluntarily losing 2 tempos, and invites white to play e5. White is not obliged to play e5. He could play, for example, knight f3 here, knight c6, and either d4 or bishop e2. Both of the moves are perfectly fine, but in any case, black gets a fine game. So e5 is sort of like a mandatory move if white actually wants to fight for any advantage in this line. So e5, knight g8. And now white is experiencing some problems with the pawn on e5 because it is relatively unprotected. Black could easily target it by playing knight c6, queen c7, maybe even knight e7, knight g6, or simply trade it by playing d7, d6. Thus for white there is not much of an option left but to play knight f3. And after knight c6, white is very happy to sacrifice the pawn on e5 for a long-term compensation. Black has to accept it. Knight b5 is an incoming threat, so there is not really anything else black can do. He has to take on e5. All of this is a known theory being played hundreds and thousands number of times before. After knight b5, which was played in the game, white is already threatening to play knight e6 and bishop f4. Those are very nasty positional threats. Black cannot really play d6 here because it is met by c5, which is a very nice move to know. And after d takes on c5, bishop f4, black is in great trouble. So let's say after f6, I cannot imagine any other move here besides this. And after take queen h5, this is essentially game over. This is a known mistake, and at that level you do not expect this to happen. So after knight b5, Radjabov went for the main line a6, and after trade, he played f6. So if you wouldn't know this line and you would be playing it for the first time without the actual knowledge of the theory, probably the first instinct would be to move away the knight, either knight g6 or knight c6, and then presumably try to chase away the queen from the d6 square. But the point of f6 is black wants to play knight f7 and accomplish just that, followed by d6, bishop d7, bring out the remaining pieces. So after bishop e3, knight e7, oops, it seems black lost the queen. No, he did not. After knight f5, black continues the development. This is a nice trick. All of this already has been played before many times. And here, Ding Liren played queen b4. This move has been quite popular recently. The other alternative here is to play queen c5. And after queen c5, sometimes the queen goes to a5. For example, after d6, queen a5, followed by long castle. This is still quite an interesting and unbalanced game. But okay, the other alternative for black is to play queen e7 here. But anyway, queen b4 is a very decent, very interesting alternative. So the main point of this idea is try to lure the knight from e5, the black knight from e5 to c6. So presumably the knight on c6 is worse position. So there's this very nice positional nuance. Now the white queen goes to c5, so the knight on c6 is supposedly slightly worse position. And black probably could have tried to play d6 immediately. So after bishop d8, d takes, bishop b6, there are a number of options how black can try to equalize. This has been played before at a quite high level GM games, either e5, bishop e6, or the other possibility is to play knight e5 and the bishop d7, bishop c6. Black brings the remaining pieces into game, but he loses the pawn in the process. So eventually white has the 2 bishop advantage in the position and probably some sort of a very little advantage. What Radjabov played queen e7 is perfectly fine. So after queen e7, long castle. Now comes the big surprise. I mean, I don't know what happened. Did he mix up something? Or did he forgot? Or did he rush? I don't know. I mean, I thought that the match strategy dictated you need to trade the queens and give up the pawn. And what's essentially important, this already has been played before. So I don't know really what happened here. After bishop d6 takes, bishop d7, there was a game between Radoslav Wojtaszek. He played this position already once with white color. Black simply makes a long castle, so it is so difficult for white to win this. So I don't know, maybe Radjabov just mixed up something, because after knight a4, long castle, check here, couple of trades. I mean, okay, white has this bishop on f1, but it's nearly not enough. I mean, to claim that white even has an advantage. Yeah, so this line is quite solid, has a solid reputation, and everyone, I mean, was expecting that Radjabov is gonna give up the pawn and, I mean, try to play for the draw. I mean, he has the black color in the match. So suddenly this was a slight surprise. He played d6, and now the game becomes really sharpened and balanced. So after queen a3, short castle, g4, here rook g1. Even this position has been played before, but Radjabov here already was taking quite some time trying to understand how to play it out, so I am only coming to the conclusion that he mixed up something here. So white's idea is very simple. He wants to move the kingside pawns forward and try to create some weaknesses at the black's camp. So which essentially happened in the game. So there you see this very nice control of the squares. So bishop d7, h4, all of the white's pawns can march forward, trying to cause havoc in black's position. a5, that's a very nice move. I mean, black is preparing to play knight b4 and try to generate some counterplay at the queen side. And I believe it is here where Ding Liren probably made the only mistake in the game. I mean, I wouldn't even call it as a mistake. It's probably a slight inaccuracy. He played here g5. It's a very tempting move, but I believe that white is not ready to start an attack right now, because his pieces are not yet positioned at the most ideal squares. The queen on a3 is probably sort of misplaced for immediate action at the king side. And after g5, what Radjabov had to play here, he had to open the position. Open the f-file for the rook, which, I mean, makes perfect sense. And after h takes on g5, seek some active game at the queen side. So, for example, the game might have continued something like queen b3 and d5. It's a very, very nice maneuver. By the way, it might look scary, at least visually looking at the position, because, I mean, white might just play at some time g6. It looks so scary, but black at any given time can play either knight e6 or knight h6, and after g takes on h7, simply play king h8. So the pawn on h7 indirectly defends the black king placement, and it's not so easy for white to continue the attack. So I believe really g5 was a rushed decision, but anyway, I mean, Radjabov didn't respond correctly. He played king h8, which feels like a natural response, because, I mean, white is willing to open the g file and try to start some kind of an attack during the g file. Now Ding Liren activates his queen by queen b3, presumably with some idea to play queen c2, g6, yeah, and try to organize something at the king side. Yeah, rook c8, black is seeking his counterplay at the queen side, king b1. There you go. These are the moves which I mentioned before. Probably you wanted to make them before you play g5, because at any given moment, Radjabov had this opportunity to take on g5 and try to generate some counterplay. But I mean, he was concerned. He was concerned to open the h line or the g file. I mean, he did not want to open his king. But what happened in the game was even worse. Yeah, he played e5. That's a mistake. I believe here the final option for him try to get a reasonable game was to play f takes on g5. Still. So h takes on g5, e5, knight e5. I believe this line is quite forced. Bishop f5 check. Bishop d3. And queen e6. Well, I'm slightly clueless. I don't know what Radjabov did not like it here. Probably he didn't like some ideas of g5, g6 for white, for example here. But yet again, I mean, black can simply play knight h6, and I believe this game is very, very sharp, very unclear. So, knight c7 probably is a mistake, right? I mean, black needs to always keep tabs on what happens if white is willing to win the exchange, because after rook takes, bishop takes on rook c8, suddenly black is organizing a very dangerous counterattack. Yeah, I don't know what happened in the game, why Radjabov decided not to do this, why he decided to play so passively, and he played e5 instead, and that is probably the first serious mistake. And after knight e5, check here, queen e6, now white opens the g file, and calmly plays a3. I really like this move, a3. It's such a powerful manifestation that white keeps control of the position. I mean, he has sacrificed the pawn. He is supposedly the one who has to prove what he has for the pawn, but he simply plays positional chess, takes control of some squares, and he is not in the rush to regain the pawn or to checkmate the opponent. And if I imagine myself in black's shoes, I would imagine for me it is extremely uncomfortable to play this position, because I have to understand when white is going to play knight c7 and give this fork, when white is going to start his kingside attack. So probably the best practical choice here for black was to play knight b4 and give up the pawn on the spot. I mean, after knight b4, a takes queen b4, white definitely is much better. The material is equal. He has the two bishops. The black king is more weak, but still, I mean, the position can be probably salvageable for black. I've always believed that everyone is a great expert when it comes to choosing the best continuation in the better position. I mean, everyone usually does this work quite well, but when you have the worst position, it's usually very difficult to remain objective. I mean, you have the bad continuation, then you have the ugly continuation, then this looks really terrific. I mean, it looks so dangerous, and this line is completely unplayable. And you have to choose something from these lines, and the mood goes down. So you can understand that Radjabov wasn't feeling exactly in the best mood here, so it is very difficult even for such a high-class players to remain objective and choose the lesser evil. So what happened in the game? He made a couple of not the best moves, and I believe here was the one last chance to try to hold into game. He had to play bishop g4. He had to rearrange the pieces. And after, let's say, rook e1, knight h6, at least he has some sort of a piece coordination. Maybe he will play at some moment f6, f5. But, I mean, the position is ugly, and probably he'll lose the material somewhere along the way. Some bishop c7 or knight c7 ideas are incoming. So you can imagine this was definitely not a joyous moment for the black player. So what happened in the game? He played after bishop g2. He made the last mistake, rook g8. I believe after this move, black is completely lost. He simply missed the move knight e3, which is a very nice maneuver. So bishop d5 is a move which is impossible to parry. The bishop on f5 is unprotected, so black is losing material. So I'll just show you how the game finished. So knight d4, I mean, this is desperation. Knight f5, queen f5, bishop d5, and still black is ahead an extra pawn, but I mean the knight on f7 is really useless. So trade, knight h6. It already feels the black's position is in ruins, and there comes the very powerful queen b4. I'm sorry, queen b6. So multiple threats. Queen a5, queen d6, queen d4, queen c7, you just name it. I mean, queen c7 probably is the most dangerous threat by attacking the rook and trying to checkmate black in one move. So queen d7, black has to give up the pawn, and queen d4. Essentially, this is a losing position. On the board is a material equality, but I mean black has no really useful moves here. So queen e7, and now comes probably the finest move of the game, king a2. I mean, this is just wow. I mean, when you can afford to make such quiet moves, it probably it shows some sort of a domination that white can afford to make such quiet moves and not to spoil any advantage of the position. But anyway, I mean, I would imagine Ding Liren was simply setting a couple of traps here. Probably he knew the position is easily winning. One of the traps might be if black plays rook e8, try to take control of the e line. White simply plays rook e1. Notice that the white king is placed on a2. So queen e1 is simply made by queen f6, and this is a checkmate on the board. So that's one of the reasons why Ding Liren decided to play king a2 in the first place. Probably it was just fine to simply play also queen c3, and with the same idea to play rook e1 and also try to grab the pawn on a5. But okay, king a2 is such a classy move. It's really great to see it. Knight f5, queen c3 now, and rook e1 is a threat, queen a5 is a threat. Yeah, okay, b6 and h5. Okay, Radjabov is, Ding Liren is quite greedy. He doesn't want to give up the pawn on h4. Not that it really matters. Actually, the h pawn will play a vital role later in the game, but the game is completely lost anyway. And here Radjabov lost by force. He played rook e8 and could resign a couple of moves later. For example, he could have played rook f8, and after rook e1, queen d3. Yeah, I mean, black is completely paralyzed. And after bishop e4, probably white is winning a couple of pawns at the queen side. The d6 falls, b6 falls, and with it the whole game. And even some ideas that h5, h6 might appear on the board. For example, here, this is a nice trick. And rook f7. Queen d4, rook a7, checkmate. So this motif might appear with the knight on g8 on the board. Probably it's not necessary, but still it's quite nice. The game ended with Radjabov. So the game ended with rook e8, and now comes h6. So the point is after knight h6 or knight e3, what happened in the game? You simply play a rook e1, and there is the same motif. You want to play queen f6 and checkmate the black king. In the game happened knight e3, and anyway, rook e1. And yet again you can see the white was so important to position the king on a2 because black doesn't have any access for this fork, knight c2 check. The game might have continued after knight takes on d5, c takes on d5, and this is an inevitable checkmate on g7. Queen f6, queen g7. So Radjabov resigned. Well, it was quite an impressive game. It was, but you have to also understand that probably Radjabov didn't play the best way. He had a couple of opportunities. He mixed up the opening. I don't know what happened really there. Here at this moment, right? Let me return it here. I believe he had to trade on c5 and then play d6, give up the pawn and try to probably escape into equal endgame. And the second option is that he had that after Ding Liren's inaccuracy rushing with g4, g5, he had to take on g5 and generate quite serious counterplay. One of the lines here actually was quite funny. After f takes, h takes, knight b4, queen b3, d5. I did not show this line. a3. Looks like the knight has to go, and then suddenly rook c8, which leads to a complete mess. I mean, I don't know if white actually even has the time to play g6 and attack black at the king side. So anyway, I mean, this was quite an interesting and instructive game, so congratulations to Ding Liren and the Chinese fans. The game and the match continues today with the third game. If you like this game, please press like and leave comments, and do not forget to subscribe to my channel. I'll try to produce more interesting and valuable videos regarding chess analysis and various tidbits. Thank you for watching me. Please subscribe to my channel and see you in the next video.